Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chuck Fisher. I am Vice President, Distribution and Financial Services for ARC, and I am here to introduce you to this session, Traversing Direct Travel Programs and to Traverse Technologies themselves and ARC Company. Traverse's partnership with ARC goes back to 2020, when ARC acquired a majority share in a company which was then known as New Travel. Last year, New Travel rebranded with a new name and a new look, becoming Traverse Technologies. Traverse works to reduce friction by making direct booking solutions that fit the needs of travel suppliers. We see Traverse doing highly collaborative, innovative work that benefits both suppliers and buyers. Currently, Traverse partners with Aeromexico, Alaska Airlines, American Airlines, Air Canada, Delta Airlines, United Airlines, and WestJet. Hopefully I got them all. If your airline or travel supplier does not currently partner with Traverse, you're going to want to, and you're in the right place to learn more. So on stage with me is the CEO and founder of Traverse, Michael Harbin. Michael has over 35 years of experience in travel innovation, holding leadership roles at Hopper, Orbitz, Travelport, and co-founding startups such as G2 Switchworks. In today's session, Michael will lead you through the benefits of better travel content and going direct. Michael, the stage is yours.
Wow, no pressure, no pressure. Thanks, Chuck. Don't you love Chuck? Thanks, Chuck. I always love Chuck because Chuck and I share a thought process where, pants are optional. We prefer shorts, just for the record, nothing creepy. Sorry, ladies. Yeah, don't look at me funny. But yeah, really super glad to be here. Appreciate everyone's attention and participation. I'm super happy to have such incredible, talented, and informative panelists here with us today. We're going to dig in and I want to have a little bit different conversation and just have a true conversation. The way I prepared for this, Lori, don't get mad at me, is I didn't prepare. And that might sound silly, but I don't want it to be a prepared situation where I have, questions and answers that are pre-formed. If we didn't know our stuff, you would know. We walk the walk, talk the talk every single day. We have a breadth and depth of experience, many, many years. And one thing I like about this industry, and I kind of think back to a person I really like to watch on the Shark Tank, is Daymond John. And I really like what he's done with the FUBU brand. And I think our industry is like FUBU. It's for us, by us. So many other tech companies and innovative entrepreneurs out there kind of build for the general marketplace. You got Apple, you got NVIDIA, you got all these really powerful entities, and they build tools for the general use. But within this industry, which I think is the best industry out there, we're building the tech, we're empowering ourselves, we're holding up and moving things forward as a team, as a cohesive family. And I think that's pretty interesting. We drive the back end, the front end, the user experience. We focus holistically on the traveler, which not a lot of entities do that well enough, or just the end user. And I think we embody that really, really well. And I think that's the underlying theme of this whole thing. It's really about people. It's about data. It's about ownership. And less control, more freedom. And I think we tend to balance that out, maybe sometimes incorrectly. We got to be cautious about that. But I really think, again, I love the space. I know I probably offended some people yesterday, so if I did, I'm not sorry. I can do more today, but I won't. But I think we need to have honest conversations and just really get down to the brass tacks and open up. And I want us to share together. And it's not about me to you; it's about us as a group. And we're going to have questions and answers. So if you guys have questions throughout, Jessica will be here to moderate me and keep me in line and check. I report to her, for the record, on a daily basis. And so yeah, you'll keep us in line there. Back to the FUBU brand, I think, again, it's very important. And I actually had the idea to come out here with my Apple Vision Pro to set the stage that the future is not tomorrow, next week, or next year. It's actually today. And every day is today. And if we don't embody that and work towards that, we're going to miss out. We talk a lot about NDC, about AI. AI, I think, is interesting because it's Chat GPT, and GPT stands for generative, pre-trained, and transformer. And I think those are really key, interesting words about tech, but I also think it embodies our generational shift in demographics. Today we have travelers, we have, people like me, the old folks, we have millennials, we have X, Y, and Z, and now Alpha. They are generative. They are going to be using more generative AI than we are today. They are going to be more pre-trained. And I don't mean pre-trained as in like college, but they're going to be pre-trained on content, on social, on short-form information. Their attention span's less than ours, dramatically. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we need to understand that this next generation, which are the travelers of today and tomorrow, and that are the employees and the new entrepreneurs, and the force that's going to go into the marketplace on our behalf, we need to learn to adapt. And if we don't, they're going to go around us. It's like a rock in a river. They're not going to stop. They're just going to go around. So I think that's critically important. And then they're also transformers. They're going to transform us. We're not going to transform them. So I think just be aware of that. So I'll kind of kick things off. And again, sound in with via the app. I think we have someone with a mic out there. Not me, but a different mic. So yeah, just jump in there. But I kind of want to start out with, and I'll actually pass it over to Sarah real quick. I probably should have introduced Sarah. We have Jeff, we have Stephen, we have Sean, and we have Jessica. Thank you for being here today. So we had a good conversation, I think, recently about the traveler and where are they in the equation? Are they in the middle, on the side, in the back room? Who do you put forward first in your kind of equation related to the importance of travel programs today?
Yeah, so I was actually asked this question last week by somebody at a TMC, and he said, who's at the epicenter of your program? Is it your TMC? Is it your duty of care provider? Is it a data aggregator? And I said, none of those. It's my travelers. They are our product. ZS, who I work for, we're a professional services consulting firm, and our people are our product. And so we've built a program that puts them at the epicenter of everything. We've enabled direct booking with your all's capabilities. So if you don't want to go that more traditional route, you enjoy that relationship with an airline, we've enabled that for you. We don't want to be the friction point in someone's travel. If I have any influence over someone's travel experience, it shouldn't come from me. It should come from some component of their trip, but not something that I can help manage.
So you prioritize flexibility and choice over control.
We do, and I think it's hearkening to our company's culture. We put our people first, and so yeah, I want to give them the choice. Do you want to book direct and you want to self-serve while you're on the road and fully manage that relationship? Or do you still want that more traditional experience with a TNC, with an OBT? Neither is wrong, but I've created a program that gives them that choice. How do you want to book your travel? How do you want to manage it? It's your experience.
Nice. Stephen, over to you real quick, since you're on the corporate side. Do you have a similar mindset, thought process, or are you in a different camp?
Yeah, I would almost echo exactly right. We're an international law firm, so like Sarah, our people are also our product. The only thing I would add is that at the center of our program, in addition to the travelers, we took an exercise about 18 months ago to really redesign and reshape the program. And how do we move away from the legacy approach where the TMC does sit at the center and put what's important to us, which is our travelers, and then secondly, our data. Having visibility to the data is really what allows us as a travel program to drive additional value to the organization. And the legacy way of getting that data in one place by using a single channel no longer needs to be the case. So a bit like Sarah, we've built a pretty flexible program that gives our travelers a multitude of choices as far as how they want to book and manage their travel. We're very transparent and upfront with the pros and cons of going down each path and what they need to be aware of, but we give them that choice. I would say the only thing I'd add is that we don't consider ourselves to be an open booking program like some others. We do have a defined list of channels that are considered in program, and ultimately it comes down to which suppliers are technology advanced enough to support the needs that we have in a direct booking experience.
Cool. So 2 follow-up questions. So, COVID kind of changed things, of course, for everybody. And it forced us in from a centralized model, meaning I have people, staff, resources that are in a certain location, and it decentralized that. And decentralization is a very big play for NDC, for new financial technology, et cetera. Has decentralization opened things up so people are not really focused on one carrier, one brand, and that's why they may need flexibility in their brand choice?
We haven't seen that, but we've also been pretty open with whoever's going to get you to your client, book with that airline.
Gotcha.
Yeah, only a little bit. We've seen, as people are no longer maybe located in the same city as the office they're a part of, we've seen a little bit of shift from that perspective, but ultimately we've always been a pretty travel-heavy organization, so we haven't seen more or less travel as a result of that decentralization.
Gotcha. So Jeff, you're a different perspective, I would think, because you're on the TMC, the online booking channel side. And I don't think anyone would argue that side, and it's not that side versus the other side, but the TMC and the OBTs offer tremendous value. Has that value expanded, shifted, changed kind of with this new direct, indirect modeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a false choice where we always talk about, company first or traveler first. And I know why we talk about that, because there are trade-offs in most managed travel programs. But I think we're kind of selling ourselves short when, we have to aim for both. It's not about, I don't look at it as about picking who's going to be at the epicenter. We want to have a great solution that will give companies everything that they need, and travelers everything that they need, and have everyone be happy. And I know it sounds impossible because we're so used to looking at things in the boxes that we look at them, but that's why I'm really happy to be on this panel. I'm happy to hear from the two of you, because technology is evolving in a way where we can almost start over, and we can do things that we didn't think were possible in the past in terms of how we construct a program and what technologies we use. And I think so often we start going down a path, oh no, that won't connect to the mid-office. Oh no, that'll break duty of care. Can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. But let's imagine that we didn't have any of those constraints, because I think there are no constraints that aren't solvable. Mm-hmm. So what is the best way to deliver what the company needs and what the traveler needs? And I think most people would agree that there are lots of travelers who want to book direct with suppliers. I don't think we can deny that. There are also travelers who might want a comparison shopping solution. There are travel coordinators who book for other people who, kind of a traditional corporate booking tool works great. How can we make these coexist? And I won't say that I have all the answers, but I'm positive there are answers that we haven't delivered yet. We meaning AmTrav, but also the entire ecosystem. So the technologies now, and then some of the new NDC APIs, from United and others are making it possible to, they're removing barriers where, this is an indirect booking, this is a direct booking. Let's stop thinking in these terms, and let's think about what do we want a program to look like, and then build it put the right pieces in place to build it that way. And I think it's possible. Wow,
I love that. So Sean, on the airline side, and I got to give you and everyone here credit. Yesterday I was on a panel about the heroes, but I think the heroes are really the corporate travel managers and the travelers, really. And then also the airlines. The airlines get a bad rap. Every time something happens, a passenger sees an alien on a plane, everyone freaks out. There's all kinds of weird things going on. But the heroes are the people that are putting themselves on the street, on planes, going across the country, missing soccer games, away from family, traveling people across the globe in tubes that are shiny and miracles, in technology every day, on technology that is not really kept up. and doing that safely and uneventfully as possible. So how do you and your team, build the right strategy from a digital perspective, an online perspective, direct program, and how do you balance that with the TMC side and talking to corporation leaders like we have here today?
Yeah, it's a great question. At our core, at Alaska Airlines, our DNA is very customer-centric. And so when we think about this new space, that strategy and that core focus doesn't change. We want to be able to cater to what our customers want and need. And when we say customers, as you rightly pointed out, there are a lot of different players, right? There's the traveler, there's the company, there's the TMC. We have a lot of customers even wrapped up in one single trip. But we want to be able to provide a solution that fits all of their needs. And that's why it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It never can be. Just think about 2 example customers that Alaska deals with, right? We have a small business based up in the state of Alaska who have the most direct relationship you could have with an airline, right? Like some of our sales reps up in the state, they don't just know the travel managers, they can probably name every single traveler at that company. Or, as you were talking about the dispersed workforce, maybe there's a company based in Charlotte where we don't fly, but since they have remote workers, maybe one of them works in California, and we still want to be able to win their business as well. So all of these potential customers or current customers are equally valuable to us, and we want to make sure that whatever strategy we approach this new space with works for all of them.
That makes sense. As it relates to, Jeff, you kind of talked about, is it indirect or direct, or is it indirect and direct? And I think that's a really important point. And I still think people are still stuck on looking back as opposed to looking forward. And as uncomfortable as change is, it's just a reality. And like I said earlier, people are just going to go around you. There's leakage today. Leakage is growing because people are being forced to use tools that they find maybe less adequate than they can find elsewhere. Having personalization, having the ability to be known when they log into a .com, to be have the recognition, have the frequent flyer, have the status, have the ancillaries. I always say, and this is not to detract from the technology out there, but I think no one does airline merchandising better than the airline. A lot of the tools today, right or wrong, still dilute, still puts everyone into a one-size-fits-all bucket. Even though it's NDC and it's great, it's direct content, direct PNRs, the traveler doesn't care. They want to make sure that they have the best seamless, friction-free experience, and oftentimes that is going brand direct. People might go to Amazon today, but they would rather go to Nike tomorrow. Anyone shout out, what are your thoughts related to why do travelers choose direct? Is it because they just want freedom, they have a better experience? Any kind of thoughts of why people choose direct versus indirect?
Well, from ZS perspective, I've heard from many of our travelers who have fully adopted and embraced our direct strategy. Right now it's with United. And actually, I have one of my travelers in the front row. I was chatting with him this morning, and he shared with me why he loves this direct experience. Rather than go back and forth through several email exchanges with his travel arranger, his EA, he knows the flight he wants to book. It's in the app is there in his phone. Go book it yourself. Forward the confirmation to your travel arranger so they're aware of it. But there's not that waste of time of back and forth and waiting for someone to see the email, ticket it. Just get the booking done and move on. Again, I don't want the booking process, the booking management, to be a point of friction for my travelers.
Nice. What about servicing? Do those same travelers prefer or like or happy with self-serve, or do they then need more high touch?
I think it depends on the servicing that needs to happen. If there's a system-wide disruption, there's a queue at the gate, you can't get a hold of a United agent, I see opportunity there for TMCs to get more involved with servicing those bookings. But if it's, my trip's not for a week, I need to change my departure time, they'll go in the app, they'll self-service. But if it's in those heated moments of pressure, of tension, they would like additional support.
Yeah, and that's where I think, the TMCs, I used to work with the TMCs very closely, still do today. They offer tremendous value, the high touch. We can't replace that, at least not yet, and maybe we should never. But I do think, any organization, whether it be a GDS, a TMC, ourselves, tech provider. We need to continually, every single day, earn your business, earn your trust. We can no longer assume just because I have a contract, it's going to be renewed for the next term and renewed again, or because my father booked here, my son's going to book there. That just doesn't work. It's funny, I look at my kids, and they will not use an OTA for the life of them. They prefer to go to Southwest, they prefer to go to United, and younger people today, they don't mind pulling up 2 or 3 apps. And there's almost a trust factor when I can pull up Marriott or Hilton or United or American or whomever. There's almost a sense of control, flexibility, freedom. So yeah, I find that interesting.
I'm curious, Sarah, how much of that is because, is it because the corporate booking tools are kind of sucky and they don't show all the options? Like if you had, and I honestly don't know the answer to this, and I'm trying to figure it out. Like if you had a booking tool that had the right inventory, had the right options, and so there wasn't, you remove that trust factor because you could be confident. That's the problem right now. You can't be confident in a corporate booking tool because wherever they're getting content from, it's probably not as good or complete as you're getting direct. So I struggle with the idea, like, is the problem that we just need to make much better booking tools, or is there still something inherent about booking direct that people are always still going to want to book direct? And my sense is it's probably somewhere in the middle, that there are probably some travelers who, if you can just make the in-channel, for lack of a better term, experience really great, that they would like it. But then there's others that are just so loyal to a brand and so used to using that brand site in there for their personal travel and everything else that they don't want to have to change. They want to do what they're used to doing.
I agree. I think it falls right in the middle. We have some travelers who will always be brand loyalists. They don't want to see this marketplace option like what a booking tool is going to offer you. And so that's why we built that into our program. But I don't think we're ever going to be able to do away with the booking tool because the other half of our direct bookers still like that option. They want to see what else is out there. They might be a little more cost conscientious than our brand loyalists. They want that marketplace experience. I think it's interesting to share a little context how ZS came to direct bookings. We've launched it back in 2017, 2018. And it was actually our CFO that came to my boss. If you all know Suzanne Boyan, she was the pioneer of direct booking, or one of them, I will say. But our CFO came to her and said, I book my vacation on the airline's website. Why can't I book my business trip the same way? And so that's how the conversation started. and that's where the idea really came from for ZS. And it's just been pushed forward from there. But again, that experience is still at the center.
It's interesting.
I think it's always a mix, though. I mean, we talked about, is it indirect or direct or indirect and direct? And I think, at least in our population, looking forward, the future is both, right? I think there's certainly going to continue to be value in, a lot of our folks do big, complex international trips that involve 5 different airlines in 6 different countries. An expert to help them with that is of value.
For sure.
But a lot of the other stuff that we see them doing, I mean, it's sort of, Jeff, to answer your question, I think it's not just the front end that needs to be better, but the entire ecosystem needs to evolve in a way like you talked about at the beginning, where I'm comfortable to use my company's preferred channel if then when I'm stuck at the airport and I call and I'm global services on United, the answer cannot be, sorry, I can't help you. And that whole way that the ecosystem works together has to evolve in order for that to become reality.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you talk about that, whereas those more advanced type trips, they can't even be serviced or booked on many online tools. And I kind of wonder, well, I kind of know, but I also wonder globally, are those really valuable, are the easy transactions really valuable to the TMCs, or are the ones that are more involved that require high touch and you add your value of expertise and global awareness and, cross-border and, different documents, is that where the value really lies? And I think we always spend time on, the 20% versus the 80%. Just we naturally go to the hard stuff and try to fix every use case when we should just focus on what can we do today. Let's practice progress over perfection, and then test and learn and iterate again. So Sean, being from the airline again, you are from the airline, right? Just, yeah. We had a conversation about, what, and if you can't share, that's okay, but, what is your mix and how do you kind of manage your mix between indirect and direct, and how do you manage, the servicing, self-serve, the high touch to the corporate, travel managers versus the TMC, because they're both important to you.
They are both important, absolutely. I mean, it's no secret that direct booking is obviously going to be lower cost for the airline, so there is incentive for us to encourage behavior towards that specific channel, but that doesn't mean that we want to not invest relationship-wise, technologically, in the other channels as well. I think Alaska's in a unique position as well as the 5th biggest carrier in the country where, we don't have the share that other carriers have where we can shift consumer behavior in a way that other carriers might be trying to. Nor do we want to. We want to continue to service all of these channels, a very omni-channel approach to be able to capture that broader customer base. And that's really our approach.
Nice. Hey, Jeff, so we've been talking a lot recently, and we're working on a project together, which I'm super excited about. Hopefully you are too.
I am.
That's good.
I wouldn't admit it here if I was not.
Okay, that's very true. I have witnesses. I have the details.
But I am.
So on that, I think our first conversation, we've known each other for years. I think I had hair back then, so that was a long time ago. We just said, let's just do it as opposed to keep talking about it. And I think there's so much talk, and not that talk's a bad thing. You got to talk, you got to design, you got to iterate and all that. But we just talk things to death, and we talk and argue as opposed to just do it. So we had a conversation. It's like, well, we can have a data flow from the direct into your data model for your high touch, for your awareness factor, for your duty of care, everything that you add value to. Why not just feed that? So when a traveler is booking direct or indirect through your channel, you're whole, and then they're whole, and then the entire ecosystem's whole. And it may not be perfect end to end, but just the data flow itself. Yeah. And let's just do it.
Yeah. Start somewhere, and then figure out how we can make it better. And we've talked about. One of the things that are valuable that a TMC provides is that visibility, both from a reporting standpoint and from a duty of care standpoint. So I think it is a good thing if direct bookings can flow through to our platform. So whether it's booked direct or indirect, our companies know where their travelers are and how much they spent. So you can start with just that. And then you can talk about, do we want to be able to service in some situations these direct bookings, or do we want to figure out some way to incorporate travel policy? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. There's lots of things we can do to make it better. But if we're gonna try to make it into this giant project where we try to think of every possible thing, and then it takes 2 years to actually deploy it, what's the point? We should get something out there quickly and then iterate, keep iterating, keep making it better. And I think that's been the problem in our industry with lots of things where we talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, and it takes us forever to actually do something. And I think we don't need a bunch of parties to collaborate and come to a consensus on this is how, omni-channel should work. Let's just, pick 2 players or 3 or get a group together and just do something, put it out there and go from there.
Yeah, I always think about other tech, like your phone. Every little update, you get a little something. Well, that's a cool little feature. It just makes your life a little bit easier. Similarly, you wouldn't use your iPhone or your Android phone if it didn't update for 3 years or 4 years, or you're in surgery and the doctor's using Edifact. And again, nothing wrong with Edifact because sorry guys, but it empowers so much. But you kind of expect ongoing. I want the best practice. I want the best tech. I want the latest medicine, and that's what we kind of come to learn and expect. And we should have that.
And you also we didn't say we're not going to use a cell phone until we had the iPhone. We had lots of things that came before the iPhone that were not nearly as good as the iPhone, but at the time, each of those advances were better than what we had before. And that's what...
And the funny thing with that is, if you remember the iPhone moment, the iPhone kind of sucked in a way. It had the scroll, And that was the big deal. And it didn't have a keyboard. People were pissed off about that. People didn't like the fact that there was no cut and paste. You couldn't move the apps. There was only set apps. Yeah. It was not that great, but because it was a pivotal moment for technology and it was now touchscreen, Steve Jobs did a wonderful job. So yeah, we can start small and then grow. And if you do it together interactively with the traveler in mind, it's powerful. Yeah. And I hear a lot about personalization. I think personalization is great, but I think we boil the ocean. I'm happy when I go to my airline and they know that I like a window seat. That's cool. And I think it's really super cool when I book my trip on an airline and I go to the Uber app and it knows I just landed. We can start really small and add on slowly, iterate, surprise, delight. Don't surprise because you never deployed or delivered or didn't care. So personalization on Alaska's side, what does that mean to you as far as how do you personalize? Is it just an offer? Is it just the fare? Is it discounts? Is it knowing what they did last time versus what you can offer next time?
Yeah, I think in terms of what the potential is, the whole world is an ocean. I think as we've talked about these last couple of days here at this conference, there are so many ways that personalization could be applied in the airline space. I think realistically, in the near term, it's more personalized offers. We just launched a new program or product called Alaska Access, which gives personalized sales offers. So, we as Alaska know where some of our guests like to book, what types of trips they like to book, and we can specifically target content towards them. If we know they like ski destinations in the winter, or if they like beach destinations, we can specifically target them with those promotions when they go out. Down the road, are there opportunities to do that within the booking flow and make that experience more targeted, perhaps even to the fare level? Absolutely. But I think we still have a lot of room to grow there.
Nice. I want to ask about data again and personalization. And I think a lot of the ideas are tremendous. But I also kind of wonder on the flip side, everything that people collect on me, my breadcrumbs, my energy, my keystrokes, my last purchase, next purchase, etc. I did a search on tinnitus one day just because I was like, what's tinnitus? And now I get tinnitus ads every single day. I bought my wife a pair of shoes last month, and now I get women's shoes ads. And not that that's wrong, but it just doesn't fit. I book a trip, and that was kind of a one-off. So we have these entities, whether it's Meta or Google or an airline, they're pulling these breadcrumbs for me, but is it right? And are they doing it with my permission? And sure, yeah, I clicked a box on a user license agreement, but I didn't read it. It's a bit like stalking. Why not engage with us to say, let's get permission to start to build personalization, and let's actually get your input. What is really meaningful, and maybe you want to opt out for some things, some searches, some information, some trips, because it doesn't mean, what you want. Even Netflix, you may watch, my kids will sign into my account and they'll watch a movie and I'm like, why did I get this recommendation? But you can say, remove that from my recommendation. Simple things to then fine tune and kind of back to some previous conversations, about persona and personalization and letting people own their data, have some control. Of course, with the rails, with security around that, but, do you trust an entity and all these entities to kind of guess and pull from this breadcrumb that might be true or false? Or do you want to give it to the traveler, the owner of that data, and let them kind of help decide, what do I share? How do I share it? How do I synchronize? So one thing we're doing with a lot of you is data sync. So when someone logs in, through kind of our onboarding process, we synchronize with your HR system or your ERP system. So when you log on to United Airlines, we dynamically talk to UA and they say, yeah, Traverse is who is this, and what can they do, and what company are they with? So we dynamically provide that information. And if you fire somebody, that's dynamic. You're not going to have people on that site getting offers they shouldn't get. And then we can do the same thing with packaging dynamic offers and then downline servicing. Does that make sense as far as data ownership? Anyone have any thoughts on that kind of as a start?
I will say for the whole multi-channel concept, that's a tricky part that has to be solved. Is if you're a traveler booking direct, but you would want your TMC to have access to that data, Who needs to consent? Is it the traveler? Is it the company? Is it both? How do we orchestrate that? I think those are the kinds of things that we are going to have to iterate on. I don't think there's any clear solution for that. It would be great. I think you've talked about like some sort of a universal profile somewhere where people don't have to have a gazillion profiles on every single site, and there's just one master profile that if it's your profile, you control it, you assign permissions. But it's also true that people are lazy, and like you go to the disclaimers at the bottom of every web page where it tells you all the things they're going to do with your data, and you're so sick of them. And at least me, I'm pretty sure all of us, we accept. I mean, it could say anything in those terms, and I'm going to accept it because I'm not going to spend the time to read it. So everyone cares so much about their data in theory, in the abstract, but they're not really willing to do a whole lot to protect it.
Yeah, I think it's how we wrap that value. Sarah, you and I were talking previously, and just the data. So where does the data live? Where is it? Who controls it? How do you manage it? What happens if people leave, you change a vendor? Any conversation about that you could share?
Sorry, rephrase the question?
So, yeah, my bad. So where does your profile data live today? And do you control it? And what flexibility do you have with that today?
It's primarily owned by the TMC, but then there's also this subsect owned by, we work with Traxo, who's one of our data aggregators. So they own a shell of a profile, but then we also work with you all, and you have a profile, and then everyone has frequent traveler accounts, and there's all those profiles out there, and it's so sporadic and disintermediated that, if that's even a word, that it's hard to control. And we were chatting about it this morning that when someone makes a change to anything in their personal data, you have to go to all of these separate accounts downstream to make those changes again. And you're going to forget 5 or 10 of those, and then you run into roadblocks. But having that centralized source owning that data, making one single change that will spread that change to all the other accounts would be a phenomenal improvement in the industry.
So do people think that owning the data set or housing the data is the value? Or should they really think about it that having the access to the data and having a seamless view and up-to-date view is what's more important?
From my perspective, I would say the travel manager likely wants the ownership piece because it's going to make things so much easier for portability reasons. If I make a change in my program, it's just pick and move it up. It's easier. I would say the latter is probably more important to the traveler.
Gotcha. I know I recently moved, and I had to change my phone number and address in 60 sites, and I still miss some. So working on billing and all this, it just takes time and you forget. But if, like today when we work together, we synchronize your HR feed, and it's automatic. So when hire fire happens or updates happen, it's dynamic. There's no need to have the interruption for the traveler. The same can actually happen on profile. A traveler changes their phone number or their known ID or whatever else, and they can say, yeah, push it out. I think that's interesting. So we're going to be working on something like that.
It would be nice if we didn't have to always sync things, though, because when you're syncing with a bunch of places, even if you can do it, that's kind of fraught with problems. It would be nice if there was one universal source of truth. Here is my profile, and I can give permission to these entities to pull from it, but that's the only place that it gets changed or written. I mean,
well, I think that's the end goal. I think we want to have eventually one kind of universal profile that has the traveler data points, it has the corporate data points, it has the supplier data points, and it's a organic ecosystem. But you have kind of one API, if you will, and then it's seamless. So when you log in, when you make a change, and if you want to have a copy of that for analytics or whatever else, you can kind of download that. But it should always be kind of centralized, or at least when you have that central location, it can auto
it's when
push.
You have 8 different places updating it, and then they all have to sync together, and it doesn't always work right.
Yeah, no, you're right. So I think that's definitely a test and learn, but I think you need to prove the value to the traveler. Even on personalization, people are lazy. But if you make it, if you give them the value up front, and now I can have one central place. And it's not just what I send or my personal information, it's now I have my itineraries in one profile. I have all my history, all of my bookings. Today it's in 45 different emails. in different folders. Did I delete it? Was it Gmail? Was it something else? It's ridiculous how poorly we manage data today. So Stephen, you're on the legal side. Do you trust your travelers? Are they adults? Do they do what they should do? Do they go around, or how do you manage behavior?
Yeah, it's a very interesting environment in which to manage a managed travel program. They are all adults, yes. They generally make very good business decisions. Of course, in a law firm structure, most of our most frequent travelers are also owners of our business, so it's in a way it's their money, right? And our program is really all about the flexibility piece that I mentioned earlier, but it's also about trust, right? They each know what they need to achieve. They know why they need to travel. They know the best solution to get them there. I don't need to tell them that. So we take a very much an open approach so that people can do what they need to do. Of course, data then becomes very important so that we can report on it afterward. We can analyze and look at behavior trends. Where necessary, we can always, of course, reach out to somebody if there's an issue with some behavior or something that we can recommend for improvement. But it's a very trusting program. They are adults and they know what they need to do.
That's good to know. I think either you or Sue's mentioned before, is it controlling behavior, or is it more of an HR issue where you train people, you give them a process, a program, a definition, and they are adult enough to just manage themselves? Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. We at ZS, we don't have a mandated policy. We have guidelines. I like to think we hire not only really intelligent people, but also people with good morals who are going to do the right thing. And if we start to see nefarious activity happening over and over, that's not a travel problem. I'll correct it the first time and coach them how to make better decisions. But when it happens more and more, that's an HR problem.
Gotcha.
And if we see that, it's like a little red light on the booking platform isn't going to change that behavior, right? What it's going to do is it's going to drive them to go do something else that we have no visibility to. So our whole approach is, let's make sure we have everything visible so that we can analyze it. It's not a matter of sending a nasty email every time somebody spends $50 more on a ticket or books last minute or whatever.
So it's more about taking away the friction, giving adulthood over to the adults, trusting them, and typically they'll surprise you in good ways. And then you have the ability to have the data in real time, so you can react and train or update. Okay, that's interesting. What are the big blockers for like direct adoption? Is it the onboarding? Is it the data? Is it Stephen? Over to you.
I have some thoughts here. Yes, I mean, I think it really is. Again, in a program that's large like ours, having an individual solution for each individual supplier that we have to individually administer is a challenge, right? I have a very small team. We're a team of 4 managing our entire program globally. There needs to be some kind of unification, standardization that makes it easier for us to kind of plug and play with different supplier direct solutions, so that it's not every morning me downloading our HR file, uploading it to this website and this one and this one and this one, and then, these people have left, so I've got to pull them out so they can't access our stuff anymore. It's got to be a more technologically advanced solution in order to make it work at enterprise level. So what works for small and medium-sized businesses can work in a large enterprise, but it's got to be more streamlined and efficient.
So can I summarize that a bit and say that you want to be able to update, whatever policies, not a policy per se, but policies, data feeds, data flow through one kind of portal, as opposed to going to each site or multiple TMCs or third party like a Crisis 24?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one add-on, where we have a commercial relationship with a supplier and that commercial relationship carries benefits, obviously, in order to allow for us to encourage direct booking with that supplier, those benefits need to be available in the direct channel as well. And that's a big roadblock for many carriers today. Nice.
Yeah, I think one of the overarching themes is, again, we're not saying that what we're talking about is just direct or indirect. I mean, these solutions can work across platform, across profiles, across entities. What we served to you can be also served to your TMC or your downline connector, duty of care, servicing center. To start with those, lightly, let's start with data, make sure they're whole. So when they do call, they book you tonight, but they then called AmTrav, you're aware. Yeah. That's like the first step, and that's a great first step. We're almost short on time. Any questions? Anyone have any thoughts or challenges or?
I think you guys solve the world problems, and nobody has questions.
Well, I want to thank you all for attending. Thank you for your, just being here, being one of the heroes in this journey with us. Thank you all for joining, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Safe travels. All the best.